Hello and welcome to an Affinity Revolution tutorial. My name is Ezra Anderson, and today we're going to learn how masks work in the iPad version of Affinity Photo. This is a foundational skill, so if you're new to Affinity Photo, this is a perfect tutorial for you. If you'd like to follow along with the same image that I'll be using, I've included a download link in the video description. To begin with, let's take a look at exactly what is a mask. A mask hides or reveals certain parts of a layer. Wherever a mask is white, the layer is visible. But wherever a mask is black, the layer is not visible. And by extension, wherever a mask is gray, a layer will be partially visible. My way to remember this is to think of how everything is totally visible in the bright white daytime, but nothing is visible in the blackness of night. To continue this analogy, you can't see anything at nighttime only because it's dark outside. As soon as the sun rises, you can see everything again just fine. In the same way, a black mask in Affinity Photo does not erase or destroy anything. It's just hiding those parts of the layer. All you need to do is paint with white to reveal those parts of the layer once again. Now that we know what a mask is, let's see exactly how it works inside Affinity. First, I'm going to come to the Layer Studio, and then apply a mask to this layer by pressing on the mask icon. The mask icon kind of looks like a Japanese flag. Then we'll select New Mask Layer. As you can see, our layer now has a white mask applied to it. Remember, a white mask means everything is visible. But let's see what happens if we select the paintbrush and start painting with black. If you look in the Layer Studio, you'll see a black streak going across our mask. This black streak is represented in the photo as the parts of the picture that are now transparent. But remember, these parts of the layer are just being hidden. All we need to do is paint in white, and we can reveal those parts of the layer once again. Let's change our color from black to white and try painting over those parts of the picture. By painting in white, we now have a totally white mask once again, meaning all of our picture is visible. If we look at the Layer Studio and press on the triangle to the left of our layer, we'll see that the mask is a child layer of the background image. As with all other layers, a mask can always be checked off and on. Or if we wanted, we could press on the trash can to delete our mask. It's important to note that you need to have the mask selected when you're painting in white or black for it to hide or reveal parts of your layer. For example, if I had the picture layer selected and not the mask, then as I began painting in white, it simply painted white on top of my picture. If I tried changing my color to black and started painting, now it's just painting black on my picture. You need to have the mask layer selected in the Layer Studio before you begin painting in white or black. I'm going to use the undo arrow at the bottom right to undo those last paint strokes. In addition to being able to apply a mask to our background image, all of the adjustments and filters inside Affinity Photo come with pre-built masks. To see this, we'll open the Adjustment Studio and scroll down to select Recolor. Now if we open up the Layer Studio, we can see that the recolor adjustment is being applied to all parts of our picture because it has a white mask applied to it. But if we took out our paintbrush, we could paint in black to hide parts of this adjustment layer. Just as we could use a mask to hide parts of our photo, we can also use a black mask to hide parts of an adjustment layer. This is extremely useful because it allows us to apply adjustments to only particular parts of our photo. As an example, let's say we only wanted to apply a recolor adjustment to the sky and not to the rest of our picture. In this case, we would just need to paint in black in all parts of the photo other than the sky. Then the sky would be the only white part of the mask, meaning the recolor adjustment would only be applied there. But there's an easier way. We could also take our original white mask and invert it so it's completely black. Then all we would need to do is paint in white across the sky. To see how this works, I'm going to undo my last paintbrush stroke. And then with our recolor adjustment selected inside the Layer Studio, we'll come to the Channel Studio and invert it by pressing on the 3 circles next to Layer Recolor Adjustment. Then we'll press Invert. If we open up the Layer Studio, you can see that the recolor adjustment now has a black mask applied to it. But if we change our paintbrush color from black to white, we can begin painting to reveal parts of this adjustment layer wherever we want. In this case, we'll paint in the sky to only have the adjustment layer applied there. Obviously, this is a very rough job. If we wanted to be more accurate, we would need to zoom in, and then it would be a good idea to change the hardness of our paintbrush to 0%. Unless you want a harsh transition, it's a good idea to paint with 0% hardness on a mask. To clean up our paint job a little bit, we could change our color from white to black to hide this adjustment layer so it's no longer being applied to the mountain. If we wanted to be even more accurate, we could also lower our brush width and paint with a smaller paintbrush. But I think you get the idea of how this works. Just paint black where you don't want the adjustment layer applied and paint white where you do want it applied. For the last part of this video, let's see how we can use selections to make masks. First, I'm going to tap twice with 2 fingers to zoom back out. Then I'm going to press on the trash can in the Layer Studio to delete the recolor adjustment. We're now going to make a selection of the sky so our adjustment layer will only be applied to where our selection is. To make a selection, we'll come to the Selection persona and then get the Smart Selection brush. Now I'm just going to paint across the sky to make a selection. Because this isn't a selection tutorial, this selection will be good enough for our purposes. We're now going to come to the Adjustment Studio and apply an HSL adjustment. Then I'm going to click and drag on the hue slider and bring it a little to the right. Then I can tap once with 2 fingers and press Deselect. If we come to the Layer Studio, we'll see that our HSL adjustment has a white mask applied to it where we made our selection, but it's black wherever it wasn't selected. And of course, just as before, we could always use a paintbrush to refine where our mask is. We would just need to go back into the photo persona to select the paintbrush. As a final example of how we can use a mask, let's try to use a mask to remove the sky from the picture. First, I'm going to press on the trash can to delete this HSL adjustment. Then we'll come back into the Selection persona and make a selection of the sky. Now that we have our selection made, we could apply a mask to our background photo. But remember, the mask we apply will be made white wherever our selection is. If we're trying to remove the sky from the picture, we want our mask to be black where the sky is. So in this case, we want to invert our selection before we apply a mask. To do this, we'll tap once with 2 fingers and then press Invert Selection. Now we have everything except for the sky selected. If we come up to the Layer Studio and press on the mask icon, we can now apply a new mask layer. And just as we had expected, Affinity has now applied a black and white mask using our selection. Everything that we had selected is white in the mask, and everything that wasn't selected has been made black on the mask. The key to unlocking the full power of masks is the ability to make good selections. As you can see, our selection was far from perfect around the tree. If you'd like to learn how to make better selections, I really encourage you to enroll in our complete beginner's guide to Affinity Photo. We spend an entire chapter of the course learning how to make quality selections. I'll put a link to the course in the video description if you're interested in learning more. Once you can combine your new knowledge of masks with how to make good selections, you'll be able to do incredible things in Affinity Photo. Thanks for watching! I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to learn even more about Affinity Photo, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We come out with a new video every Saturday. So hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next Saturday for another Affinity Revolution tutorial.